Hello, everybody. Welcome back to not another Isekai show all about anime, right? Current season of anime, all the ones we're watching, not the ones we're not watching. How many are Isekai? Usually too many. I'm Tyler, and yeah, we're gonna get into it. New episode this week, right? It's good. It's good. We're reaching that kind of end point in the season. Most of these today are gonna be like episode 10 on average, so only a couple of episodes left, minus a few shows that are two cores, but we're reaching the end. We're reaching the end of these seasons, so it's good. It's exciting because we're getting to the end of these shows that we've been following for 10 episodes or whatever. But then there's also next season, right? Next season looks like it's gonna be a banger too. I mean, there's a lot of sequels. Of course, sequels are kind of the easiest thing for people to get excited about. I think that I think Shield Hero is that next season. I think. Um, Now all the episodes are blanking, but there's a lot. There's a lot. I think. I don't know. Maybe at some point, I'll talk about next season in more depth. Maybe like next episode or the week after. Definitely before everything starts. But yeah, just kind of get like a temperature check to see how everyone's feeling about what shows and all that. Um, yeah, and also, this episode's going to be a special one as well because we have an addition of a show. I will say that last episode I talked about maybe um, adding three shows. Right, I was going to add Bocchi, The Rock, Akiba Maid War, and Arc Knight's Prelude to Dawn. Didn't add the latter two. I added Bocchi. We're gonna get Bocchi at the very end. It's great. I covered 5 episodes. Next week I'll probably cover the next five because that'll kind of catch up in what we're doing. Akiba Maid War didn't really add that just because I was like, it's I don't know. It's like too much of a meme show for me. Like I just don't really have any interest in it, especially since I came to it late. Like I don't feel like watching 10 episodes in a row of of a show like that. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure it has its little slapsticky moments and stuff, but not really too interested in that. And then what was the other one? Arcanite's Prelude to Dawn. Again, just kind of the more I read about it, before actually watching any of it, because I kind of reminded myself of what the show was, just like the other two. More I read about it, I was just like, it just seems like a fine show. It seems like people that are really into that and into like some of the appearances of that show are like into it. But other than that, it just seems like a fine show. So again, not one that's like, man, you gotta watch this. On the flip side of that coin, we got Bocchi the Rock, and we'll talk about that at the end. But Bocchi the Rock, 1,000% worth it, But we'll get to that. So first, I didn't click on it because I'm an idiot. Spy Family season 2, episode 10. So this time we got the episode, or I guess the start of an episode that I remember. I remember from the manga. I remember being like, when does this happen? We got the tennis match, right? So we have Twilight and Nightfall have entered Campbell's underground tennis tournament to try to win the painting that has like hidden clues in it, right? So there's a lot there. But basically, there's the painting that has some like clues. They're like, oh, the way they painted it, oh, it's gonna what? So they need to get that for their mission. The whole East and West thing again, Operation Strix, is still in effect. Um, and I specifically said Twilight there because this is really the first time we're seeing him go into Twilight mode in quite a while. Mostly it's been Lloyd, you know, um, just kind of doing his thing on the side, doing little side missions here and there to, because he still has to work, right? He still has to do stuff other than the other thing, other than the main mission here. And so this is the first time we're like, okay, we're getting into Twilight stuff. We're getting into main man Twilight. So that's pretty cool. And also just a random tennis tournament. Like, why, why does this exist? Um, and let's see, we got Fiona makes a good point. If she were Lloyd's wife, he wouldn't have to hide the fact that he's a spy. And that's definitely a big argument there. And that's like one of the few arguments of hers that I actually really agree with because it is tough. I mean, we've seen it on Lloyd's end and even yours end for what she's hiding, and even Anya's end for what she's hiding. But The fact that he does have to kind of tiptoe around and make excuses, and he already has his little secrets and stuff just in his normal day life, because that's what being a spy is. But the fact that he also has to do it at home, like he can never turn it off. That's got to be tough. That's got to be real tough. And so if he was with Fiona, he would be able to turn it off at home. Like, he'd be able to talk about the spy stuff candidly. He'd be able to, obviously within reason. You can't just, you know, you can't just talk about stuff like that. Even if it is with your spouse. But, and maybe have some help, maybe have some understanding. Which is really funny, because if him and Yor came out to each other, like, they could have some understanding with each other as well. Although I'm not sure. I'm not sure how illegal being an assassin is. So I'm not sure how Lloyd would, like, ethically have to react to that information. Um, that is also one of the perfect aspects of this show, is that they're both at the top of their game in their respective fields. So neither one of them has information on the other. You know what I mean? Like him being the top spy in the world, it seems, completely counteracts your being the top assassin in the world, it seems. Because, like, both work for people who are supposed to have this sort of intelligence, this information gathering, right? But neither one's, like, employers know the truth about the other's fake spouse. Like, out of all the digging, I mean, especially on Lloyd's side, all the digging that Lloyd did about Yor's past, never came up she was an assassin. So that just proves that both sides, no matter how high both of them are, they're still not able to crack each other, because they are like two sides of the same coin. We just don't get it. um let's see, and they're just coming and swinging, right? They destroyed the retired pros, right? That was kind of round one, right? Just completely demolished them. Just had service aces left and right. um and we cut away from that. We cut away from Lloyd and Fiona doing well, and we have Yor being worried. This was a very sad moment, I feel, because Yor, throughout the whole thing, we've talked about how she's been um, super, like, self-conscious about just herself in general, right? I mean, even away from her assassin stuff and that whole aspect of her life, she's always been super self-conscious about her as a wife, her as a mom, just her as a person, really. Her not really being sure of herself in anything, it seems. Um, and so now we have this outing where Lloyd is out on a tennis thing. Didn't really say it was with Fiona or anything like that, but Yor's own insecurities kind of brought it out, where she's like, oh man, if he's out with his coworkers and stuff, Fiona's a coworker, and she already had this whole thing with her when they were at home, about maybe, her not doing a good job, and Fiona is a better person than she is, or whatever, which totally doesn't make any sense. Again, it's mostly baseless, but in Yor's own mind, it's not. So now she's like, oh man, is he with her? Is he gonna see her? Is what is their relationship exactly? I don't think Yor was completely going to, what if Lloyd's cheating? But it did go to a spot where she wasn't super sure of herself, and maybe Fiona is gonna butt in at some point. We don't know. I mean, at least from Yor does not know anything like that. We do have a cute moment where Anya kind of pats her on the thigh and is like, "Hey, things gonna be okay." um, and then we cut back and we got Nightfall just completely destroying the Boric brothers. Because they were, like, super aggressive about everything, and she was like, no, you're not gonna insult my Twilight. So again, they're just kind of demolishing their competition, and at this point, it does become like one of those other anime where, the protagonist is super overpowered, can't lose anything, and we're kind of sitting in that space right now. We're like, okay, they're killing everything. They haven't lost a match. I don't think they've even lost a set, really, right? Um, I don't really know the terminology of tennis. I know like a match isn't really what you think of, and there's a game and a set and a point, and it's so much. But yeah, and they're just trying everything. So it's like, man, are they gonna lose? Do they have any competition? And then it gets to a little bit of cheekiness, right? Where Campbell starts pumping some gas in their room, starts making them really weak, drowsy, muscles not really all the way there, aren't really all attentive, numbing, all those good stuff. And then on the other side of that, we have Campbell's kids who are, the whole tournament thing, right? We saw that they were that. Um, they just have like they have like video game weapons, where it's just like, oh, it's like, oh, we're upgrading the like skill tree on these weapons, making them better, level 2, level 3, all that stuff. Because the one kid has like a rocket racket, and the other kid has like whip lasso type racket. And it's, again, we did see earlier on where, when Nightfall was like, wow, there's really no rules. You can kind of do whatever, and since there's no rules for anyone, it's not really unfair, because it's like, if they're allowed to have these things, then we're also allowed to have these things. We just don't have them. I guess that's kind of the idea there. So they start killing it, but then Nightfall and Twilight start killing it too with just their natural abilities. And it's a nice little back and forth, because it is the kids having the upper hand with their cheating, essentially, but then our main spy duo having the upper hand just with all their training and experience, and how that is, kind of grown their physical and athletic abilities. So not really not really even, I would say. At the beginning, the kids were definitely winning, because they were catching our main couple off guard. But as it's gone on, Twilight and Nightfall have the upper hand until the very end. Until the very end, um, when we have like little tiles in the court that like move up and down. It looks like, so we'll see what happens there. We'll see how many more tricks they have up their sleeves. I can't imagine they have too many more. Like there can only be so much being done, but even that, like, it completely throws off your whole equilibrium. You can't get a sure footing. Like, how are you going to do anything? So we'll see how they pull out of this one. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure they win, but even that I'm not 100% sure on. Like, maybe they lose and they still just steal the painting. I don't quite remember. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. And this whole episode I thought was great. Again, it was one I was waiting for, because I remember there being a tennis thing. I remember enjoying it. And yeah, it is kind of like a two-parter too, because we're not done. We have next part when we're gonna finish the tennis match. I imagine this is the championship. So yeah, very excited about that. Very excited. Next, My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 11. My Hero just continuing to pop off. So what do we got? We got, even All For One is telling Shigaraki to fall back. I thought that was a very telling moment. Whereas, like, even All For One, who his whole thing is, he's trying to steal quirks and all that, but his main thing is that he's trying to steal One For All. Because if he gets One For All, then anything is possible, right? Because he might even be able to, like, give quirks that aren't part of One For All to other people with the One For All. Like, we don't quite know the ramifications of what'll happen, because it's never happened before. But all we know is that he cannot, under any circumstances, get the One For All. It'll be bad. So yeah, so, like, even he is like, hey, we should fall back and regroup. We are not in condition. Like, your whole regen thing is not up to snuff right now. More and more people are coming in. Like, back out. So yeah, that's happening. And then we cut back to Toga, and one thing I didn't know, and I imagine it was the reveal, because she does kind of say it, and Uraraka is like surprised by it. So I guess we didn't know this, unless we didn't, I just forgot. But she can use other people's quirks, which is kind of crazy. I imagine it's only the people that she has the blood from, and I imagine it's only a temporary thing, where like, because her taking the blood from people, that's not permanent. That's not like, oh, I cut you, I have a drop of your blood. That means I can become you whenever I want, however many times I want, right? It's like, doesn't she like consume the blood? So like the more blood she has, the longer she can be somebody. Isn't that how that works? So if that is how that works, then I imagine that that's how the quirk using works too, where it's like, okay, I can only use this as long as, to the equivalent of how much blood I have, right? The same way the other part of my quirk works. But that's kind of nuts. Like she's like a mini all for one. Like that. Like, does all for one know that she has this quirk? Does Shigaraki? Does anyone else know that she can use other people's quirks? Because that's, poof. Like, if she just applies herself, she could be one of the illest villains on Earth. The whole thing. And then Froppy coming in with the clutch save. I loved that, right? Because it was kind of going back and forth there, and then Toga was kind of going nuts a little bit for a second, and then Froppy coming in like, nope, we're not doing this. But with the whole thing, the fight wasn't really the main part of that interaction between Toga and Uraraka. It was kind of what they were talking about, and their whole ideals, and how Toga was trying to be like, we're the same person. Like, you don't want to see it because you see me as a villain, but we're the same person, low key. Taking things that are precious to us. Yeah, it's interesting. And again, that is one thing that I really enjoy this season. I don't remember if it was really talked about too much in previous seasons. It probably was, but it is coming back hard in this season. Being like a pretty big through line, honestly, with us kind of them trying to mess with our understanding of the hero versus villain dynamic, and like, are villains really villains? Short answer is yes, but the long answer might be a little more complicated. So I do really like that, especially with Toga now kind of leading that charge, it seems. And then what else do we have? Dabi's name is Toya, and he's Endeavor's firstborn son. So that was kind of the biggest reveal of the whole episode, where he's the firstborn son of Endeavor. We all know Endeavor's past. Endeavor has done his best to redeem himself. I feel like not only within the show, but also with fans, because for the most part, Endeavor always just seemed like this like bitter guy. Like, he's number two. Number two ain't bad. You can be number two. That's the second best out of hundreds, thousands. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. But it's like bitter dude, and then like maybe some like abusiveness in the family, which isn't cool. It's not cool. Especially with the whole like trying to like almost like build kids as if they're Legos, into what he wants, so that they can, he can live through his children, so that his kids can be number one and surpass All Might. It's like very questionable stuff, but I feel like over the seasons he's done more and more, especially since All Might is at a commission, right? He's not a hero anymore. He doesn't really have the juice anymore. I feel like Endeavor, that just that being a thing, I feel like that's caused Endeavor to kind of reevaluate his priorities and also his approach to being a hero. And all in all, I feel like I like Endeavor now. In the beginning I really didn't, for all the reasons I mentioned, but now it's like, no, Endeavor's doing his best to be a true number one hero. He's not just bitter anymore. He's not just like, oh, I'm gonna do this for my own self. It's like, no, like it is very similar to how I feel like Bakugo has shifted for me, where there is some stuff in the beginning of the show and prior events to the show that it's like, ooh, Bakugo is really not a good guy. He's not a good person. But since then, I feel like he's done a lot to redeem himself, and even he's peeled back the layers of his own character and kind of explained why he did those things. Again, it doesn't quite excuse all like the bullying and just the weird aggression that he's had towards everyone, not only Midoriya, but a lot of it makes sense now. And again, I feel like he's done a lot to prove that he really just wants to be the best hero. But all that being said, we don't know if this is true or not. I feel like that's the real question that everyone has, and it's one of those things where it doesn't really have to be true. There are signs pointing to it is true, because even the other league members are like, Dabi's never really talked about his past and like where he came from and who he really is and his childhood and all that stuff. So we can't even sit here and say, oh, that's clearly not true. He's only doing it to get a rise out of people and sow doubt in the community and all that. Like they're like, it might be true. we don't know. But again, I feel like it is one of those things that it doesn't have to be true. If it is true, it's obviously 10 times more impactful. But even if it's not true, it sounds good. So it's done its purpose, where people are like, man, if this is true, like we got to throw Endeavor out. We gotta cancel Endeavor. you know Again, I feel like there's a way to spin it where, again, and Endeavor's done a lot. He was the number 2 hero for quite a while. He's number 1 hero now. He does a lot of good. A lot of good. So I feel like there is a way to spin it, saying that he's reformed, right? That whole thing, that whole storyline. But it's definitely hurt his image, and I feel like it's started to again sow doubt into regular people who aren't heroes, whether you have quirks or not. If you're not a hero, you're not a hero. And be like, damn, like is this really, you're not only questioning Dever as a person and as a hero, but maybe also questioning other heroes. Because again, he not only was throwing Endeavor under the bus for being the kind of person that he's painting him to be, but also Hawks. Painting Hawks to be this killer, right? And he's really not. But it looks good on camera. Got them flashy angles. It's hard to know. So we'll see what happens there. The very last thing is that the best genist, he's come to save the day. He's out here, came out of nowhere, wrapping up literally everyone, even Giant Boy over here. So maybe that's the end, because throughout this whole thing, I've been kind of wondering in the back of my head, like, how is this fight going to end? It could end with Shigaraki retreating, right? And everyone kind of licking their wounds. Wouldn't be mad at that. But how is it really going to end? Is it going to end with Shigaraki being taken away? Is it going to end with a lot of more hero deaths and maybe Shigaraki does get the one for all? What's going to happen? And so ending with Best Genius, and especially because Best Genius' name was kind of getting thrown under the bus there for a little bit too. So Best Genius coming out of nowhere and just wrapping everyone up and being like, nah, we're not, we're done. We're done. Is interesting. So we'll see what happens next episode. There's a lot of stuff that's happened, not only this episode 11, but in the past few episodes that I think, we're going to start seeing more ramifications of outside of just the battlefield, with, everything, honestly. Like, Bakugo sacrificing himself there, that was crazy. Midoriya showing off the other quirk, the float quirk, which was supposed to be a secret. Him almost getting his one for all taken. Everything with Shigaraki being what Shigaraki's become, right? The Dabi bombshell of him being, Endeavor's son, claiming to be Endeavor's son, throwing Hawks under the bus. I don't know, a bunch of stuff. Freaking Eraserhead. I gotta see what happens with him. Like, is that a temporary eye injury? Is that a permanent eye injury? Is his leg chopped off his own leg? Like, there's a lot that's happened in these first 11 episodes of, this crazy all out war. It's kind of what I called it. Sort of equating it to Walking Dead. If anyone's out there seen Walking Dead, they had their whole all out war arc, which was like crazy. Um, so I definitely feel like next episode might be a little bit of a calm down. I don't know that Best Genius is coming and we're wrapping everyone up. Everyone's in jail now. I don't know it's going to be that easy, but I feel like next episode is going to be sort of the end, I think. So next we got Mob Psycho season 3, episode 10. Not too much here. It definitely feels like a big episode, but more so big for how it affects the ongoing episode. So we have the crazy ending, right, where Mob got hit by the car, right, and we're like, oh man, he might be dead. Mob Psycho season 3 might end on episode 9. But then out of nowhere it starts feeling like the apocalypse, where it's like, just like the atmosphere is real scary and real intimidating. Earthquakes and stuff, like tsunamis are happening. And we find out it's Mob. Mob is he's just walking like Jason Voorhees. He's just slowly walking and causing destruction everywhere he goes. And he's lost control of his powers, which is probably the scariest thing that can happen in this show. And again, we're not really sure how. It hasn't been clearly stated, but you imagine it's because that's just his emotions. Maybe he's just like animalistic instinct sort of breaking out, and everything was supposed to go right today, and for him to get hit by a car and die, essentially, his just like every fiber in his being is just combating that. And how do you combat it? Well, you just go berserk, make it so nothing can touch you, and I am going to get from point A to point B. Nothing, literally nothing, is going to stop me. So going nuts there. Hanazawa cannot get through to Mob. He's really trying. He's really trying to talk to him, and that classic method where the best friend or the brother or the parent or whatever tries to talk to someone who's been infected in the mind, right? We've seen it in different movies and shows and books and all that stuff. And then eventually it's like, oh no, you bring up a childhood memory that gets through to the actual person, the actual heart within this crazy outer shell that's happening. And then the main character kind of wakes up, it's like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? I've hurt so many people, and breaks down or whatever. We've seen it a million times in different media, and so that's kind of what Hanazawa was trying to do here. Many different methods trying to break the bouquet, trying to lighten the mood a little bit with some jokes, trying to bring some memories back. Oh, this is very similar to how we first met. All the different methods that we've seen, none of them work, right? And it gets to a point where Mob's just going berserk, right? We do see kind of towards the very end where we sort of see Mob wake up, sort of like still inside of his own consciousness, but we're still here, like the episode ends and everything is not sweet. Mob is still going crazy. It seems like next episode might be a lot of inner battles, where this episode was us seeing Mob on the outside destroy everything, right? Everyone in Japan is like, we're dying. the end is now. So I feel like next episode might be a lot of Mob on the inside trying to fight through and regain control of his body and his powers and everything. So yeah, I don't know how many episodes this show is. I don't know if it's been confirmed. I know on my anime list it doesn't say. It still just has like question mark there. I imagine it's 12 or 13 episodes because I think that's what first and second season were. So if that's the case, we're getting real close to the end with this show. I didn't really talk about it with Spy Family just because it's a manga that already exists and I already know it. So I'm like, okay, we're kind of getting at the end with that. A few more episodes. Probably going to end with like the tennis match and whatever, right? Like, a couple more after that. I don't know where it's going to end. My Hero didn't really talk about it because it's like there's 2 cores. So there's a whole lot left. Mob Psycho, we'll only have a few episodes left guaranteed. And right now it's like this whole conflict thing that's happening right now might be how this ends. It might be some real, maybe it does end with him seeing Subame? Is that her name? I don't know. There's watching so many shows, so many names sound similar. Whatever, right? So we'll see though. We'll see what it takes exactly to bring Mob back. It might just be himself. I mean, at the end, I feel like we do have Reagan, who kind of intuitively is like, wait, I think this is Mob. So he might come in and help out. So we'll see. We'll see. Next we got some Blue Lock, episode 10. Blue Lock is dope. Again, 2 cores. So we're not nearing the end here. So not gonna have to discuss that quite yet. But yeah. So let's see. We got the match of their lives so far. Every match gets more and more important. But this one right now is kind of crazy. Still not over either. We still haven't quite reached the end of this one. So there, one note I had here, which was just crazy, was their Team V is really getting locked up by only 10 players. Like, it's crazy. Because, Kuon not playing, right? He's, his whole thing is he wants Team V to win, score a certain number of goals, so that he can still be the top scorer. So even if Team Z gets eliminated, he'll move on. Again, I'm still not quite sure how that works, but that's his plan. But still, 10 players, like, you guys are Team V. You are by far the illest in this compound, right? V, W, X, Y, Z, right? Because there's groups of 5, right? Isn't that how that works? And so, like, out of all these, like, you are by far the best. Like everyone else has like single-digit point differentials. You got double-digit point differentials. Like, you guys are killing it. So the fact that you're getting locked up by 10 players, they're a player down who's actively working against them, and the score is tied. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. Then we have Nagi, who ramps up. For the first time in his life, he's trying in something. He finds the passion in it. And at that point, we're like, he's a problem. He's a problem when he's not trying and he's just kind of getting it and just kind of, oh wow, it must be so sad to be at such a low skill level and you're trying so hard. That's his whole thing, right? Where, he can be out here sleepwalking and he's still scoring 3-4 goals a game. So that's crazy, right? Didn't know he was a playmaker. That's a big thing with them. Didn't know he was a playmaker. We thought he just kind of received and scored. So very similar to not similar, but in many ways, whenever I watch a sports anime, I would be remiss to bring up Haikyuu. got to bring up Haikyuu, the best sports anime ever made. It's a volleyball show. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's 3 seasons, I believe. Yeah. 3 seasons? 4 seasons. 3 seasons? 4 seasons. 4 seasons. I don't know. And apparently, like, a movie's coming out and everyone's scared because it's called, like, The Final or something. Like, no, it can't be the last thing. There's still so much manga to cover. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, so there's a character that I'm not going to spoil it because the thing I'm referencing happens in like season 3, I think. But there's a character in it that, doesn't really seem to put in too much effort. It's still really good, but it's kind of so when it comes like mentally when he's, thinking about the sport and the game and, how much he cares about it and whatever. And there's a moment in season 3 where he turns up and, like, he has this moment where everything changes and he finally like really falls in love with the sport. And from there, it's like one of the hypest moments in the entire show so far. And, so that's kind of what happens here, I feel like, where Nagi, for his whole life, he's just kind of coasted, doesn't really care about anything, just kind of lives, right? And so this is the moment where he's like, oh, it's fun to care about things, to have passion and to try, so I really like that. But then on the other side of the coin, we got Team Z, who's just relentless, right? Because now Nagi's trying, but Team Z isn't lying down. So they got everyone, they have this thing where they end up scoring, and like everyone's involved, right? Like every person uses their weapon, misses, but they keep attacking and attacking and attacking, and they score. And it's just like, hey, Team Z, again, 10 players. We just really have to give them their credit where credit's due. 10 on 11 facing clearly the best team in their building. And they're like, what are you doing, guys? Come on. And the best part of it is that Isagi finally understands how to use his weapon. All the pieces have come together to form a full puzzle, a completed puzzle. He understands. He foresaw everything happening. And it's just great. Again, it's the sports anime, tropes where everything comes together, and it's like, oof, you guys aren't ready. So I love that. I love it. And we have a little bit of backstory again, trying to redeem Kuwan's character. I don't really think it works personally, because we have this whole section here where we have a flashback, and we see that Kuwan has always really, really, really cared about soccer, and he formed a team. He finally got a team in school, and no one else really cared, right? Like they played soccer, they enjoyed it, they wanted to do well, but none of them had these ambitions like he had. He was like, we're gonna go to nationals, and they're like, wait, you really thought that? Like you really, like, nah, like we were just kind of playing along, we just want to play. You're the only one here that's trying that hard, and it sucks. I mean, I feel like that would suck at anything. Like any passion that you personally have, to like want to share it with other people, and everyone's like, oh wait, you like really care about this thing, and kind of like laughing at you, like, oh wow, why would you care about something like this, like that hard? And it's like, whoa, wait, hold on, this is my thing. Like that's not fair. So again, trying to redeem his character, and I personally don't really think it works. You going against your team like that, like behind their back for your own personal gain. Like, again, Blue Lock is all about the ego, right? But you going like even Ego, which I just realized that's his name. Even him coming in and being like, nothing Kuwan did was against the rules, but Kuwan, you're trash. It's like, wow, even him coming out and being like, nah, that's trash, because Ego is all about, hey, you got to be the best, do whatever it takes to be the best. And there are some questionable things that people can do to prove that they are the best striker in Blue Lock. But even that, him coming out and being like, that specifically is trash, that's how you know. So again, like, I don't think he redeemed himself. We have the whole sequence where, that's kind of cutting back and forth to the actual game. And, they're killing it back and forth, and, they get the pass off. Team B seems to be, coming up. Isagi's trying to use his new understanding of his weapon, and Nagi throws a curveball. He bounces off his back instead of either of his feet, and it's going crazy. And Kuwan tackles, straight up tackles, not like soccer tackling, but like physically, tackles this man, and gets a red card, gets ejected, all that stuff. And he did it. I did it for myself, but it was more than just for his own selfish desires, because if it was, again, something clicked, and it might have been because of the flashback, him finally having a team. Again, it's all strikers. We're all trying to be the best. At the end of the day, I'm trying to be the best, which means better than everyone else in here, including my own team, right? Because there can only be one. But him finally having a team that cares as much or more about soccer than he does. He's never had that before. So I think that definitely plays a part in it. So we tackled him, right? Because they knew Nagi was about to score. Like straight up. He was about to score. So he stopped it and kept them alive. Again, his own selfishness, whatever, but we're here now. And then it ends with them stopping the free kick, the very selfish blue lock free kick, which I love. And now Isekai has the ball. And that's kind of where it ends, right? We don't know where it goes from there. They have the ball. It's at the last 3 minutes of the game or something. So I believe it's still tied. And so Team V, again, their own egos force them to try and win. They're like, well, we can't tie. Tying is as bad as losing to these losers. Team Z. So there's they're lighting they're lighting their own fire unnecessarily, right? They don't if they tie with these guys, even if they lose to these guys, Team V still advances, they're undefeated. But Team Z has to win. They can't tie because then the score differential knocks them out. So they have to score. So yeah, I love the show. It's great. It's crazy that, again, I mean, technically the show isn't over, right? We do have another core that's going to end up obviously bleeding into 2023, but it is crazy that we got two really good soccer anime in the same year, because if you remember, we have this show, but then we also have Aoashi, which was a show that came out earlier in the year. I don't know, it ended last season. I think it was also 2 cores, so it was spring and summer, I believe. Spring and summer. That was also really good. So if you're enjoying Blue Lock, you should definitely watch Aoashi. It's different, right? Because Blue Lock is a little less conventional, where it's hey, the premise of this show is that we're bringing a bunch of strikers into this weird tournament system thing, where Aoashi is more traditional, and it's okay, it's a school, we're trying to be on the team, we're trying to get better, blah blah blah, right? It's more of a traditional sports anime, but it's incredible. So yeah, that is that. Very excited for next episode. Next, we got Eminence and Shadow, episode 10. I really don't have a lot to say about this episode. This episode just felt like a dream. And not in a good way. In a way that I was is this the official episode that dropped? Is this the real episode? Because, okay, so the whole reason I say this is because the first half of this episode is just random fan service. And I don't understand why. It's just Alexia and Iris shopping and whatever. The first part of it is people arguing over Sid. Okay. And then the next part of it is Alexia and Iris going on a weird shopping spree and buying their unmentionables, right? And it's just what is happening here? What is this show? Why? And then the second half sort of ramps up a little bit, and we see Alpha seeing Archbishop Drake's dead body, and it's ooh, okay, we're getting some story again. And then after that, nothing really happens again. And that's the episode. And those are the 3 notes I have, right? Because obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the video. You can see me, looking off to the side very often, because I'm looking at my notes, right? I write notes because my memory is not solid. So if you just wanted me to watch these episodes and then talk about them, it'd be 10 times worse than it is right now, because I wouldn't remember anything. So I have notes. I have 3 notes for this whole episode. and I've already discussed them. In the 60 seconds I've talked about this episode, I've gone through all my notes because it's like there was nothing to tell. Like, what was this episode? And my third note is, was this episode fake? The reason I say that is because there was a moment in like the first quarter of the episode where we cut to a character, and I could be completely misreading this, and and again, I'm not taking fault for that because this whole episode felt like a fever dream. Like, what does anything in this episode have to do with what the show has been so far? I don't understand what this episode is. But there was a moment where it cut to a character who was at a desk who was writing a story, and it felt meta where that character was writing the episode that we were watching. Again, I could be completely misreading what that scene was and even what this whole episode is, and if I am, please let me know. Please tell me I'm wrong and explain to me why this episode was essential, because that part to me was like, okay, maybe this character is writing the episode we're watching and it's a weird like fourth wall breaking thing. Because if that's the case, the episode is better. It's still not an episode that I feel like is necessary. Like, I still don't understand the point of the episode. But if that's the case, okay, maybe we are getting this like weird fourth wall thing, because the show's premise in itself is kind of funky, right? Where it's like we have this character who became this Lord Shadow character, and then he decided to turn back time and become just a regular school guy, and he wants to become the Lord Shadow again, but starting from being a background character. It's like, okay, cool. There is kind of some weird, like, thinking outside of the box type mentality for the main character in itself. So then breaking the fourth wall in a way like this, I could see it fitting into a show. I don't know how seamlessly it's going to do that, if that is what they're doing. But okay, I can kind of wrap my head around that. But if it's not, if this episode was just this episode, why? Why was it like this? Why was there so much fan service this episode? Again, I'm not against it. I'm not against the idea of fan service in general, but like, the show didn't have that for the whole show. It wasn't that kind of, because again, you watch shows like shoot, I just had the show in my head. Oh, it's gonna kill me. What's Konosuba? Konosuba. If you don't know what Konosuba is, it is another isekai. It's really one of the first isekai, I would say. I mean, not really the first, but like really one of the first big ones. And I feel like a lot of other isekai after it have taken inspiration, very blatant inspiration from Konosuba. But it's an isekai where the main character dies. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, they die, and they get reincarnated into another world. That's isekai, and it's like super fan servicey and super comedic, and it's just ridiculous, right? We have a ridiculous cast of characters. You have a character who you have Megumin, who is a crazy powerful witch. She uses explosion magic, but every time she uses the crazy explosion spell, it drains her completely, and she can't walk for like 24 hours. And you have a character, Darkness, who is a masochist to the utmost degree. And then you have Aqua, who is pretty powerful, I would say, like can be pretty powerful, but she, we always see her as useless. So again, very, very tropey things happen in the show, but it's a show where it kind of knows what it is, and you know what it is, so you know what to expect when you watch the show. You're not like surprised when certain things happen. That's the opposite of this show. Like with Eminence and Shadow, I just don't understand why there was just so much blatant fan service. And again, the reason I would like to believe the whole like meta fourth wall thing is true is because it was so blatant. Like the camera angles in this show weren't just cheeky. They weren't just like, ooh, look at this, which happens with shows, and I'm not mad at it. It was like full zoom, like 90% of the screen. I'm just like, there's gotta be something weird going on here. It's gotta be. I really hope so. But yeah, not really anything to talk about other than just what the episode was, because that's all that happened. So I hope next episode they explain it, and next episode I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. Next, we got More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers, episode 9. Love this show. It's fantastic. Again, not like a whole lot to talk about this time. I feel like next episode there's going to be a lot of events. I feel, but basically the premise of the episode is mostly set up for, I feel like, the next episode, because it is Kamo, Jiro, Shiori, and Mei. They're all doing the same summer part-time job. Jiro somewhat reluctantly, and then eagerly once he finds out that Shiori is also going to be there, right? So they're going to do a summer job, chilling. It's an overnight thing, so lots of potential for shenanigans there. And then we see that Akari is also doing a summer job, right? It's very similar to the one that he's doing. It's going to be overnight with a ton of people. I guess Tenjin is going to be there, right? So it's like, okay, cool. We're all kind of splitting off, doing our own thing. That's great. Then they have a moment, because Akari is always the one who initiates these sort of things, where she wants him to say that he's going to be lonely because she's going to be lonely, because low-key, high-key, she likes Jiro. Like at this point, if you're a viewer and you're like, well, maybe not, like, no, like, it is blatant. She wants Jiro more than anybody else. Like, she doesn't, I'm sure she still likes Tenjin, but Jiro's the one. So she initiates moments like this, and she always does a really good job of consistently trying to mask it as like, oh, well, no, this is the thing, right? Because points raise, and then she's like, okay, that's enough, that's great. We need points, because if we're both going to be gone for a couple days, then that's precious time we're losing to get them points, right? But we know, me and you, we know the truth. And then after all that, they try and get more information from each other on, like, hey, so tell me more about this. They show each other the flyers. It's the same flyer. They're going to the same place. What coincidence, So now we're all going to be at the same place, and that just means the shenanigan potential has risen tenfold, because we're all here overnight, right? Anything could happen. And again, this show is still going, or this manga, I will say, is still going on. Well, hold on. I still have one more note. Let me get to my last note, and then I'll talk about that. My last note is that Shiori and Jiro almost kissed. Very sweet moment there. It was all concocted by Mei. Mei is the ultimate wingman. But Akari's friends were peeking in, and so Shiori got... Why did I say her name like that? Shiori. Shiori got cold feet and couldn't do it, and then they were very embarrassed, and Akari's friends kind of knew what they were doing. They didn't interrupt on purpose, like they were peeking in, and they didn't come in until Shiori freaked out. But yeah, so that, that's kind of, got stopped there. But we'll see what happens further on. I think, again, my whole shenanigans comment is because of moments like this, where we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, technically I know, because I read the manga, but I don't remember. I have no idea. So kind of cutting back to what I was saying earlier, is that the manga is still ongoing, so the season ends. I believe there's 12, 13 episodes, whatever, right? It is only a single season anime currently. So more stuff does happen, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I completely lost everything I was going to say. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so summer job. I'm very interested to see what happens here. With the whole them all being together overnight. Obviously, everyone knows what could happen, especially in this little quadrangle that we have right now. We don't know what's gonna happen with these people. But again, if you've watched anime before, of different scenarios that could be thrusted upon characters in these situations. I'm very excited, very, very excited. Next, we got some Chainsaw Man, episode 9. Fantastic episode. I loved it. And this is where, guys, if you read the manga like me, this is where Makima starts to shine. This is where, listen, 9 episodes in, Makima has been a very mysterious character. Um, we know that she has authority. We know that she commands respect. But it's like, what about her exactly? Because we haven't seen her in action. We don't know, like, is she just like the dopest devil hunter ever? Does she just have this air about her? Is she just knowledgeable? Is she just in a position that that the position itself is what brings on all the respect? We don't know. We don't know. But this is where she turns up, and this is where it's like, oh right, Makima is not the one to play with. But yeah, so I kind of finish off this little battle here. The ghost hand restarted Denji, which was pretty dope. I'm not really sure how that happens because Himeno is gone. Like she's been reduced to atoms. To quote the late great Thanos. So I don't really know how that happens. Like, I don't know if that was still part of the contract. If it was just like, hey, I'm giving you everything, so make sure that Aki lives or is avenged or whatever. So maybe that was part of it. I don't know. And then the girl told Machete Man to not damage his heart. It was a real sly comment there, but I think that's important. Again, I always say, whenever I've read the manga of anime, I always try to make it abundantly clear. I've read it, so I know what happens, but my other comment about my memory, I don't really remember. Listen, man. I don't know if there's something special about Denji's heart. I imagine there is because I have a comment like this, but if you were to ask me, okay, manga spoilers, what's the deal with his heart? I'd be like, couldn't tell you. I don't know. Like, you imagine that these people work for the Gun Devil because they all have guns, right? And like, guns aren't a thing in Japan. I mean, guns exist, but like, not like in America, unfortunately. So you imagine work for the Gun Devil, so the Gun Devil wants his heart, but like, what's like, because Denji is a special case, right? Because we have fiends where a devil takes control of a human's body. So those are a thing, right? We have power, obviously. And then even Machete Man, you imagine, is that, because devils are different than fiends, because fiends kind of, they're reduced, they've taken control of a human body, so it's a little different than a full-on devil. A full-on devil is just like power unrestricted, right? Well, power, the word power, not not the character power. Yeah, so it's a little different. So I don't know, like maybe like Denji is a special case because he's more so like the devil, the devil didn't take control of Denji's body. The devil just kind of lent their powers to Denji to use at his command. It's more of like a symbiotic relationship rather than a parasitic one. So yeah, maybe there's something special about his heart that, could be the key to something that the Gun Devil wants. I have no idea. I'm sure when it gets revealed, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what they want it for. But right now, couldn't tell you. The Machete Man just cut Denji in half, just like that. Cut his pal, not really his pal, and then Denji right in half, just to mess with him. For the jokes. But yeah, so he's cut in half, and that's how you get him. That's how you get Chainsaw Man. You just cut him in half, and then he can't move, and the blood loss, I'm sure, sucks. And then what do we got? And then Makima. This is the moment where all the anime watchers are like, oh, Makima. Makima is the illest character in the whole show. Again, no spoilers, but Makima is the character. Is the character to watch. You thought Denji? Nah. Makima's the real one. And all the people out there that haven't read the manga, keep an eye on Makima. Please keep an eye on Makima, because there is some stuff that happens. And we see a little bit of it here. where she's alive. First off, she got shot in the head. She got shot in the head, and she's alive. Makima arrives and tells Kurose and Tendo she wasn't shot. So again, it's a secret, you know, like her whatever powers that she has, whatever abilities that she has, she does not tell people, right? So that's something big that could maybe lead to something in the future about like her keeping secrets and whatever, right? Because you would imagine generally. Well, no, I guess that's not necessarily true because Aki told, who was it? I think it was Aki who told Kobeni to be like, hey, you know, you don't have to tell other agents who you have contracts with because, you know, you should really only tell people that you fully trust because maybe they could be used against you. You know what I mean? So I guess maybe that's not necessarily true. Makima could just be like, I have contracts with some very dangerous, very powerful devils, and I'm not going to tell anyone, you know, because no one should know. But then we kind of go against that a little bit. But, you know, we'll save that for about, 60 seconds from now when we get to what really happens. On top of that, the bad guys in the train are dead, and they have gaping holes in their chests. Which is funny, because that is not the power that we see Makima use in just a few moments. And I'm thinking about that now. I didn't really think about that when I was writing this. I'm thinking about it right now as I'm talking. What other powers does Makima have? Because again, I've read the manga. I do not remember. So we'll save that. We'll put a pin in that for now. What other powers does she have? Because these people are being squeezed out of existence. And when that happened, again, you talk about my memory. When the first person got squeezed, I was like, that's Makima. Oh my god, I forgot. But in that moment, I was like, that's right. Makima has that crazy power where she can just blink people out of existence. And then it started happening again and again and again and again. It's like, yo, Makio, who can lose? Or I guess, who can win? Who can win against Makima? What kind of crazy power is that? You know? Like, Aki has the wolf devil thing, which is dope. I love that. But like, come on, man. Like, what is happening, you know? And then also a crazy aspect to that power is that Makima has these guys say the next victim's name before she kills them. So she must need, it's like a whole equivalent exchange type thing. Well, I guess it's not exchange because they both die, but she must need someone to say the next victim's name in order to use the power, in order to like target that person. So like, she must not be able to say it herself. She must have to, I mean, I guess she could, but then maybe she'd die, So if she ever does use it herself, it's got to be like, this is my purpose, So like, I guess if she ever found out the gun devils, well, I guess that's not really how that works, right? Because I imagine she can only kill humans, not devils with it. Probably, I imagine. But yeah, so she needs someone because they're dropping. So it's like, oof, this is a crazy power. This is a crazy contract that you have. Insane. But then we cut away from that and we can start to see why Kobene is a devil hunter. Like she's kind of ill, Like there's still obviously stuff she has to work on. She's very rough around the edges, but we can see why she was able to be a devil hunter. Like she has skill. Like we cut back to her and the other guy, I don't remember his name. I mean, he's dead now, so who cares? But she was out here dodging bullets and, like going crazy, and then she does one of the craziest things I've ever seen where she grabs the person's hand on the gun and makes the dude shoot himself or herself. I don't remember if it was a guy or a girl. It's not important. The person's dead. But shoot himself. I'm like, oof, that was kind of nasty. Like, and then her in present day, like running around shooting them, like crazy aim, like, yo, Kobeni's kind of cracked, Like, But then she says that she's gonna quit. Like, after this, I'm quitting. So, well, we'll see. We'll see. Again, I don't remember if she actually does or not. Um, but she has skill. So, um, and then Madoka resigned. We don't really know Madoka, so the character isn't really super impactful. But the fact that they resigned is kind of showing this thing where it's like it's getting more and more serious. You know, the Gun Devil bringing on these things, like this whole ambush of the whole secret squad. You know, the fact that it took out so many people that all 4 squads have now merged into one. It's like it's getting dangerous out here, real dangerous. Um, and Makima with just the coldest response, like, okay, oh, you're resigning, oh, okay, well, let's go. And then Madoka being like, wait, I have one more question. How much of this did you predict happening or whatever? And Makima just stopped and was like, I'm sorry, I can't discuss secret division business with civilians. Thank you for your service, and just kept walking. And it's like, oh, yo, that is the best way to answer that question. Again, Makima is not the one to play with. And again, I do just want to go back to the whole train thing. I'm gonna take the pin out of that I put in earlier. What did she do exactly? Because she didn't sacrifice anyone to do the squeeze thing. They were just holes in their chest. So I'm like, what other powers does she have? What else can good old Makima do? You know? Does she have a gun? Does she use guns? Probably not. Probably not. You know, I feel like that'd be sacrilege. But yeah, man. Again, Makima. Again, it's just that aura about her. You know, that we've kind of felt with these past 9 episodes, and then episode 10, we start to see something of substance where it's like, oh, she can back it up. You know, she's not just a character in a high position, right? Where it's like, oh, well, you know, she's our leader or whatever. So of course we respect her, and of course we're, you know, whatever, right? We do what she says. Like, no. She has the skill set to warrant, you know, everything that she gets. So I love it. You know, I can't wait. You know, next episode, can't wait. Again, this season is only 13 episodes, I believe. So we are nearing kind of the end. Episode 9, right? Yeah, episode 9. So we got 4 more episodes. Again, I don't remember the story beat for beat, so I don't really know where they're leading to right now, like how this is going to end. I imagine it'll be something crazy. But yeah, love it. Love Chainsaw Man. Next, we got Do It Yourself, episode 10. Awesome. So if you remember, last episode we had all their materials being taken, thrown away. Haruko, which is the character of the nurse, the school nurse, who was also their advisor for the DIY club. She blames herself. She blames herself for the materials being thrown away because she is the advisor, so she feels like it was her responsibility to check in on everything and realize that the schedule for the trash or whatever being recycled and taken away, all that stuff was changed. She felt like she should have known that because she had access to that information. She just didn't think of checking because, you know, again, it was a special event, you know, like normally this stuff happens on a consistent day every week or whatever, and this week it just so happened to be moved for whatever reason, and she didn't catch it. So she blames herself, which is very sad because, you know, I don't think I would blame her. You know, I think in the moment you could be very emotional and be like, yeah, why didn't you check this? You know, you could be very emotional because you and your club mates spent so much time and effort and energy and all that stuff getting these, and you had one job to just make sure, you know. So, but none of them really did. They were all just like, yeah, it sucks, you know. And it was really sad. Like, this was, again, I've talked about this show as part of the whole Not Another Isekai lineup and how it is really the most feel-good show. It's the one where there's not really too much conflict, if any conflict at all. You know, every other show where we got Chainsaw Man going off, right? We got My Hero Academia, Mob Psycho, you know, The Witch from Mercury, which we'll talk about next. Like, all the other shows that have conflict and characters going at each other and different, you know, different plot lines being woven and all, like, Do It Yourself is just like, it's just a good show where they get together, build stuff, have a good time. And this is really the first episode that was really sad, you know, like everyone was depressed, like legitimately depressed, where um, Jobco started to get a cold because it was raining, it was pouring outside, and she didn't put on her jacket. She had her jacket with her. She didn't put it on. She just, oh, I just forgot to put it on, I guess. And and Purin was there, and she was like, wow, she is really banged up about this whole thing, you know. And then even Jobco was like, yeah, same, you know, same thing with Serafu. And it's like, man, everyone is really down. Like they're all completely defeated, because it's like, well, what are we gonna do now? All of our material, like we were gonna start building today, and now we can't. Everything's gone. It took us so long to get all that stuff, you know. And Purin, one of the best moments, really a big turning point for her character. Kind of finally shedding all the rest of that whole like tsundere stuff, which is, tsundere is fine. One of my favorite anime ever is is the kind of quintessential tsundere with Toradora. But I like that she's kind of shedding it and kind of accepting that she really is Serafu's best friend, and she really does want to be a part of this club. But she comes in and she cheers Serafu up, right? She has the boards from a bench that they had and they played on a lot, and it was really great. She had her whole speech about like not giving up and just cheer up, come on, be the old Serafu that we all know and love, and Serafu just in like a big trance. She doesn't even remember coming home and changing clothes and all that stuff. Like she was down, like real down. Um, and yeah, Purin kind of has this great idea where they're gonna go back to collecting unwanted materials, and it seems like everyone kind of had that same idea, and it's great because they all bounce back, and they're gonna do, like I said, unwanted materials, right? So they're gonna go around door to door, being like, "Hey, you got any planks? You got any this, any that? An old bookshelf, an old chair, you know, DIY club. We need some stuff, right?" And it's great because that's kind of what they did to get the stuff they have now, but the stuff they had previously was more close knit. It was more just like circumstantial, where the two big things were, Ray um, with the hardware store, right? Like that was kind of like a connection that she had, and then um, I think her name is Kuroko, I think is her name. Um, she's the ninja. um, with the ninja who remembers that one time that she passed like an old warehouse, not an old warehouse, a currently functional warehouse, and there's a bunch of pallets that were just sitting there, right? And she was like, "Hey, I remember seeing that. I wonder if they would give them to us." So again, it was more circumstantial, whereas this one, they're like feet on the pavement. We're going door to door. We're putting up flyers in school to see if any students have anything. Like we are expanding our reach exponentially. Even Jobco, put up stuff online. So they're getting back to it. They're not letting them be. They're not letting a misunderstanding, some botched information beat us. We're not doing that. And they got so much, only about 50% of what they need, but still a lot. And they even put a note on it. I thought that was really cute. They were like, "Property of the DIY club, do not throw away." So that was cool. And then Haruko coming in the clutch, gathered the rest of the materials they need. Um, she went around and she got them from the old DIY club members. This is a big reveal. In hindsight, it's pretty obvious. But we got a big reveal here where she used to be part of the DIY club. She was part of the first generation of the DIY club here at this school. So she went back to the old alumni and was like, "Hey, we need some stuff." And they were like, "Whew, you need stuff? We got you." And they got like a huge truckload of stuff, cumulatively. So that's the rest they need, baby. And it's great. Another big thing here where Haruko was like, "Hey, that clubhouse that y'all got, we built that." So like, I believe in you guys to be able to build, a secret hideout. Like if we can build that, you can build this. Like you guys are amazing, you know. And it's great because she's even some reminiscing where she was like, oh, we had too many members. No one was ever in the actual clubhouse because there was just too many members and we were just always working on stuff, and so that that's a nice moment for her, where it's like she's kind of seeing this, she's helping usher in a new generation, and she wants there to be more members, she wants it to be bustling around here and everyone just super excited and super eager to start the next project and the next project and the next project, you know. So yeah, and then at the very end we have Serafu wanting Purin to join them in building the secret hideout. So again, it's a very nice moment there. She puts a little drill in her hand and is like, join us. It's like, yeah, man, I feel like Purin will officially join the club again, being like the ninja where, she can't really be like an official member, but I feel like she's going to, and, she wants to, she's very happy for everyone there. And, I think she does want to be a part of it. So, awesome stuff there. Again, a lot of sadness in the first third of the episode, but, it was all for the redemption. It was all for the bounce back. It was all for we're coming back and we're coming back stronger than ever. So yeah, so this show's also ending. Again, it's only one season, so it's going to end, I'm sure, in the very obvious point of them building the secret hideout, and hopefully it ending with a bunch more people being like, whoa, this is awesome, you guys build this, I want to do something like this, like I want to join, and I'm getting a bunch of members. So with something like that, if it did end like that, I don't know if we get a second season. I don't even know if is Do It Yourself an original show, or is it based off something? Is there more manga? I don't know. But on the other hand, because I was gonna say, I don't know if the show can continue. Like that's kind of their goal, and they achieve their goal. But then it's like, Do It Yourself could be anything. Like the story could just be them just continuing to build stuff. The next project. So I'd be perfectly okay with that. Like I said, there does not have to be any conflict in this show. I just want to watch people having a good time building stuff. So next we have Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury, episode 10. And just a reminder, this is usually our ending show for the episode, but we do have an addition here. We do have BOCCHI the Rock that I will be covering after this. So just to remind y'all, this is not the end, as it usually is the end. Mobile Suit Gundam: Witch from Mercury, episode 10. This episode was great. We kind of just have more progression and some scary stuff too. Some scary stuff that we'll get into. So we got challenges that have been piling up while Miorine and Ario have been away, because obviously Suletta is the holder, so people challenge the holder. I thought this was funny though, because it makes sense, right? She can't do anything. She doesn't have a mobile suit. I guess she could have the mobile suit. She could just use someone else's mobile suit, but they were nice enough to find a way to postpone it or whatever. The reason I wrote this down though is because I just find it so funny that people still want to fight her. Like at this point, like she's undefeated. Like she is way too ill for people to just keep, like, I know you're supposed to fight the holder, and I'm sure everyone thinks they're dope. It's like, well, she's never dueled me. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, that she has a Gundam too. Like people are scared of Gundams because of what they can do. Like the fact that people are still challenging her, I'm just, all right, it's your funeral. And then they built some robot legs, right? We're still going this whole gun to arm thing, the medical research, building robot legs with gun technology. I'm like, okay, yeah, this can help people. This is great. Continuation of that, we got Miorine doing her thing and meeting with her dad. She has to meet with her dad every so often for the business stuff. And we have a nice little moment there where her dad kinda sorta gives her a compliment. Very indirectly, but like sort of gives a compliment of like, her staying on top of things and already, creating certain plans for stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like, and you kind of have Miorine have like, sort of like a realization, like, it's, oh, I've never gotten that before, So that was nice. And we cut to Ghoul, who was out here cleaning ships. Again, he got banished to the Shadow Realm, no longer dueling. He's kind of learning the business with that way, and that's what he's going to do now. So very sad. I do like that we keep checking up on Ghoul, because it does remind us that, hey, Ghoul's still a character. You know, his purpose wasn't just the first few episodes. Like, we're going to cut back to him, and he is going to come back. So that's nice. Then we have Shadiq wants some Earthians to kill Delling. The only person I remember is Najee. It's like the main dude. So let's just stick with that for a second, because there's another half to this that is even wilder. But Shadiq wanted to kill Delling because, that's a whole thing, right? Delling gone, the president gone, then the whole structure of how everything is claimed, and we have the majority power after that, and all that stuff, right? Lots of political stuff happening here, which is always great, but sometimes hard to follow. So we got Earthians, so the people, so I guess they're somewhat mercenaries, maybe. I don't know exactly what their relationship is. So that in itself, crazy. But then the other half of that, two things. Najee is Nika's father, or father figure in a way, right? Because that's a little offhand comment that Shadiq makes. But Nika's helping Shadiq. Again, we're getting more of that, which I like, because I think it was last episode where we saw Shadiq meeting with Nika and called her something like a middleman or something, right? And I was like, oh, what's going on with Nika and Shadiq? What's Nika doing? Aren't they technically supposed to be enemies? Like, what's going on, Nika? What's going on? And now we see that Nika is, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this. Again, like being her father figure in some way, maybe truly father, and then setting up the meeting, and this has obviously been done a lot of times. Like Nika's obviously helped him a bunch of times and stuff. Like, I'm just really sad. I'm just really torn up about it, because it's like, what does this mean exactly? And I don't know, man. Like, this is something that I think will get revealed at one point, and she's gonna have a decision to make. And I don't know that we're gonna like the outcome. I really don't know. But moving on from that, we have Ellen, another huge moment. Again, there's a lot of scary stuff that happens, like bang 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 bang, like right in a row in this episode. Ellen telling Suletta that Miyurine doesn't really want to marry her, right? Putting that doubt in her that, well, I mean, this isn't really a real marriage, right? Like, she's only marrying you to shield herself from other prospects, which is true. I mean, at the very least, that, it did start off that way, right? Like, she was very happy to want Suletta to win, so that, because she would rather come into some sort of agreement with Suletta rather than having to actually marry someone else, right? So there is truth in that statement, but then also, like, more so hitting Suletta, because, like, the whole, like, marriage thing, I don't really think that's something that Suletta super cares about, like, just like the title of marriage. But what really hit Suletta was the idea that Miyurine doesn't actually like you, and doesn't actually want to be with you, and doesn't really care about spending time with you. Like, it's purely transactional. That hits Suletta, because Suletta really likes Miyurine. To at the very least, like, friend, by the best friend that she has, the person that she's closest to, has spent the most time with. So the fact that there's a possibility that Miyurine doesn't feel at all the same way that Suletta does hurts her, starts to eat her up inside, right? And then on top of that, Miyurine's decisions are making Suletta even more second guess her relationship with her, because she starts just doing stuff about how, like, oh, well, I hired those people to take care of the garden. That way there's one less thing that you have to do. And from Miyurine's perspective, it's like, oh, I can see that you're busy. I see that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of duties that you are in charge of. So, there's one less thing off your plate. That way you're not, maybe all this stuff stressing you out. Because in this episode we did see Suletta having to do a lot of stuff, her forgetting certain things, her having, like, timers on her phone so that she remembers to, like, run to this place and run to that place. So Mirene, from her perspective, is trying to be considerate. But from Suleta's perspective, it's like, oh, but I thought you asked me because this was really important to you, and you wanted you trusted me to take care of this for you. Like in her mind, it's like, I thought this was like a special thing. And then even more so, it's like, oh, go ahead, you can go on a date with Ellen. He's gonna be your colleague and everything, and even just sitting there for a second, it's like, wait, well, what do you mean go on a date with him? Like, I thought we're together. I thought, like I don't like love him or anything. Like I don't, I'm not gonna be with him. Like I'm gonna be with you. And then it's even like, oh, he's gonna be your colleague. He's gonna, I asked him to help us with stuff. Because he was also, trained for the whole Gundam stuff. So, I figured, that way there's not so much you have to do, like, so again, Mirene, in her mind, probably trying to be considerate, like, hey, there's not as much stuff that you have to do. I'm trying to make your life a little easier. But from Suleta's perspective, she's getting boxed out. Like, oh, I'm not taking care of the garden anymore, the greenhouse. Oh, I'm not going to be the only one, doing the whole, like, Gundam specific stuff. Maybe at all. Maybe they've completely cut me out of that and they're just going to do Ellen, so like all these things are creeping up on Suleta's mind about how, like, maybe Ellen is right. And Ellen also put in her head that everyone's gossiping about it. So maybe everyone is right. Maybe I completely, she even, I didn't write down the quote, but she even says, like, I've been imagining these things. I've been kind of gassing up, all these feelings and all these different things that me and Mirene have done together. She even, like, drops the 2 little keychains. She wanted to give Mirene a keychain, to be close friends and all that. And so she's like, oh man, maybe they're right. Maybe Mirene doesn't really care about me, doesn't really want me around. She purely wants me around so that we can marry and she doesn't have to marry anyone else. Maybe I am just a tool to her. It's like, oh, and even so, there is some lighthearted joking that happened within Earthian House back when they were recording the commercial, where they're like, hey, Mirene is going to outgrow you too. And Celeste was like, oh no, she would never. And again, that to me, I took as joking. They're just messing around. They're all kind of being like self-deprecating, a little bit. It's not real. They weren't actually saying that, Mirene is going to leave us all. That's not, I don't think that. But now that we do have some more serious things that have invaded her thoughts, now she can think back, like, oh wait, Earth House, people from Earth House, Choo Choo and all, they did kind of mention that. And, at the time I thought they were joking, but, maybe they're right. Maybe they, it's just terrible. It's just terrible, guys. It's just, oh man, I really hope, because the whole time watching it, I'm like, oh, Mirene, you mean well, but you're saying all the wrong things, But other than that, episode kind of ends with a couple quick things where Delling is meeting with Prospera. Not sure what that meeting could be about. Maybe Prospera has some intel. Maybe she's about to blow up everyone's spot and be like, hey, everyone's trying to kill you. or maybe Prospera is in on it and she wants to kill Delling as well. I don't know. And then Ghoul's ship is being commandeered. I don't really know who they are. At first I thought maybe they were the people from Earth that were sent there to... Well, I guess that wouldn't make sense because they're there to kill Delling. So I don't know. But yeah, so he's being commandeered, and so it's going to be a little bit of a gateway to that as well, to the whole Delling thing, the whole Benerit stuff. So, but yeah, that was the episode. Mercury Witch, episode 10. Again, a lot of stuff happened in this episode, a lot of setup, a lot of very sad stuff, and we'll see how it happens next episode, because, oh man, again, a lot of stuff we have to see. We have to see how Suleta feels. We have to see what happens with, what more, Shadiq has. Are we going to see more of Nika and what she's doing? What happens with Ghoul and his ship? What happens with Prospera and Delling? Man, so much stuff, Maybe Suleta loses. I just thought about that. Maybe Suleta loses on purpose because she's like, well, Mirene doesn't really want me. I'm not even going to try anymore. I'm not saying she's going to lose out of spite. Maybe out of depression, though. you know, maybe that'll happen. We did set up in the beginning. That's just a lot of challengers. So, and the final show of today, the newest edition. We got some BOCCHI the Rock, episodes 1 through 5. A ton of stuff here. So, I'm going to try to go through the important stuff. But I will say right off the top, I do really enjoy this show. I think this show is incredible. I'm having a great time with it. It's one of those shows that I feel like the characters themselves, like the main characters, they are all kind of like, anime tropes. They'll have their own little anime trope in them. But they do it in a way that's still entertaining and still fun to watch. And it's not just like, okay, I've seen this character before in other stuff. Like, whatever, So, it's great. So, let's kind of just run through again episodes 1 through 5. So let's see. What's her name again? Oh yeah, BOCCHI. Right. That's her nickname. That's not her real name. It's Did I write down her real name? Hitori. Hitori, I think is her real name, but they nicknamed her BOCCHI. So BOCCHI wanted to learn a guitar to form a band and to get out of her introvertness, right? So that's the very beginning where she was always an introvert. She still is, but in her mind, forming a band was great because it's a way for people like her to express herself and, I don't know, make friends, have people notice her, all that stuff, right? Sort of a selfish reason, but hey, do you? And it's very funny because there's a nice juxtaposition here where 3 years pass and she sounds really good. It's like, wow, she's doing it, like this anime could have went a very different way where it's like she just never gets good but she still wants to form a band. No, she's good. But 3 years have passed and she didn't make a single friend. So the whole reason for her wanting to do this never actually happened. The desired outcome never came to fruition. So that's very sad. And then we have Nijika wants BOCCHI to play in her band. So that's a very sudden thing. It's like, oh, we want her band. But it's nice because we finally get a moment where it's like, oh, yes. say yes. Like, this is what you want. You wanted to do this. And she's like, oh, so soon. It's like 3 years. 3 years. This is what you've been wanting. Say yes, please. Finally get the car on the track. So we have her, and then we meet another character, Rio, who, in my mind, and we'll talk about a little bit later, but Rio's my favorite character. I think I just love her so much. Rio plays Brace and is not very expressive, right? So in the beginning, that's kind of causes some misunderstanding, but it's like no, she's not mad at you, she's not like judging you or anything. She's not very expressive. She just kind of she's chilling, She's also very good. Rio is like the musician in the group. Not saying that the other characters aren't good, but Rio is like the ringer, And so, but again, BOCCHI, we see it perfectly here, but BOCCHI is very good at guitar. She's not good at being in a band though, because she's only done solo stuff. So she's never had to play off of people. She's never had to match her timing with other band members. She just plays, so that's a big, that's a big point of I can't think of the word, point of strain. I don't know. It's kind of like a big strain on their band in the beginning because they have to learn to work together, which is nice. Again, it's stuff like this. It kind of reminds me of a sports anime where everyone has to come together and learn to work together, because a lot of sports anime do have an aspect of it where there's good solo members by themselves, but they've never worked together before. Like Haikyuu. I mentioned Haikyuu earlier in the show. Haikyuu's the same way. Or I guess one that's more relevant for this show is Blue Lock, where it's like they're all separate people. They've never played together ever, but they kind of have to learn to work together and learn to work off of each other. What else do we have? The BOCCHI sitting in the trash, which you'll see happen multiple times. Because she gets very down on herself. Just That's just her personality. So I thought that was very funny. Um, Nijika and Rio have both heard of Guitar Hero, the character, not the game, and that kind of instills some confidence in her because they're just like, oh man, Guitar Hero, like they're incredible, and I watch their stuff. I'm always watching their videos, man. Oh BOCCHI, we continue some of their videos, some inspiration and stuff, like, and she's like, hey, that's me. I feel like at some point she'll probably mention it to them that she's Guitar Hero. Maybe further on in the show. Again, we're only 5 episodes in, so maybe. But I feel like it's a safe bet to say by the end of the season they will find out whether they just stumble upon the information, or BOCCHI comes out and is like, hey, this is me, by the way. Yeah. So again, still some confidence in her. It's like, okay, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can. And yeah, and they name her BOCCHI for trash, which is funny. And she really played in a mango box, because she can't possibly play in front of people, make eye contact with people, so they put her in a box, and she plays that way, and it was pretty good. It wasn't great. There was still a lot of stuff they had to work on, but it was passable, and it was their first moment being in a band, and then so they're trying to get more money, and they're like, oh, we have jobs, so BOCCHI, you should get a job, you should think about getting a job just like we have, and because we need to earn money to do whatever we have to do to advance our band, right? And that is the last thing BOCCHI wants to do on this planet is get a job and have to interact with other people. So she takes out her piggy bank that she's been saving and her mom's been saving for college. She's like, take this, but please do not make me have a job. And it's funny. One of the reasons we started seeing the reasons why Rio's my favorite is Nijika's like, no, we can't take your savings. We can't do that. But Rio was like, okay, thank you, I gladly accept. And Nijika's like, no. We're not, Rio, no. Hey, we're not taking her piggy bank. But it's just funny because Rio's like, all right. I love it so much. And then BOCCHI, it's really funny. The whole like introvertness is like she's so socially inept that she can't say no. Normally it's like, well, no, I like in my head I'm like, well, I can't interact with people. I can't, like, it's not gonna work out. I have to tell them no. But she's so inept that she can't say no. So she's like, okay, sure. So she's working at the club with them and everything, and this is where we learn a lot of things. We learn that Rio is very irresponsible with money. Rio comes from wealth, and so she gets like an allowance or whatever, and she just spends it on stuff. She buys food like crazy. She buys instruments like crazy. It's like, you don't need all these instruments. Why do you keep buying these instruments? Stop it. And so it's like she's always broke. And we come back to BOCCHI, and because of this whole job thing, again, this whole getting a job thing, we learn a lot. We learn a lot about these characters. BOCCHI's intentionally trying to get a cold so that she doesn't have to go in, which is like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Intentionally trying to be sick, that way she has a legitimate excuse to not go. Another character would have just lied and said, hey, I'm sick, can't go in. But she can't do that because she's actually a good person. Another thing we learned from this job, Nijika, her big sister is the manager. So that, that's kind of how she probably got in with the job, how she got a little bit of an in with being able to play at the club. So it's another little thing that'll come back around a little later. But this job is a great time, especially for advancing. Again, we learn about the characters, but we also advance some of the characters, namely BOCCHI. BOCCHI actually, kinda interacted with the customer. Was able to look her in the eyes, give kind of a weird smile, a very nervous smile, but, gave her the lemonade and was like, hey, or orange juice, I think, or something, I don't know. But hey, you did it. And it was very funny because, like, she was, like, very, like, you could see it all over her face. She was very awkward, very nervous, and, like, even the customer kind of chuckled a little bit, but, not in, like, a making fun of her, just kind of like, haha, that was cute, she's trying. So that was nice. She finally did that, and so that is the first step. Even Nijika, I think it was Nijika who was like, hey, you took a step. That's great. And then in BOCCHI's mind, she was like, it was one step, but it felt like 1,000. It's like, hey, yeah, I mean, everyone starts somewhere, Um, and then after all that, after learning all that stuff, making all that progress, now she gets a fever. It's like, oh, I did so much good stuff today. I actually turned all the way around and I actually did great. And I actually feel confident I can do this tomorrow again. And I get a fever. Isn't that always how it works? And then we have Bocchi agreed to teach Kita, how to play the guitar. So Kita is the character that we saw at the beginning of the show, where she was like, oh, guitar, oh, that's weird. And we saw her and we'd never see her again. And I was like, I feel like that's a character that'll come back. I feel like that was a weird thing for just a random side character that we're never going to see again to really focus on. So we have more of that, teaching her the guitar because she can't play the guitar. We hear that she lied to her previous band saying that she could sing and play guitar. It turns out she can only sing. She was so embarrassed that she just quit the band. So it's like, oh, please teach me to play the guitar so I can go back to my band and redeem myself. Which is kind of tough to hear because in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I don't care. I don't care about you going back to your band. I want you in my band. The reason I ask you is because I want you. We need a singer. We have a bass, guitar, drum. We need a singer, and you're just, I'm gonna help you to go to another band. Help you go with the enemy. But she agrees because she can't say no. And so we learn that Kita, the band she ran away from, was our band. It was our band, the Kisoku band. It was our band that you ran away from. Why didn't you just say so? Come on. And the whole thing is that, she really wants to get closer to Rio. That is the senpai that she was talking about, that she wants to get close to, that she just is enamored with. And why wouldn't she be? I mean, look at Rio. Come on, Rio's so cool. And they do convince Kita to join the band. It is mostly Bocchi that kind of puts it all on the line, but because the whole reason why Kita wasn't gonna come back is because she felt like she was a disgrace. She ran away without telling them. She just kind of dipped, especially before their next performance. It's like, oh, come on, like so she and herself, she was like, I'm scum. Why would you want me back? But they're all like, hey, like, we get it. Like, yeah, I mean, it sucked, I guess, but past is the past. We're here. And Nijika makes a great point where she's like, yeah, but if you didn't bail when you did, we never would have met Bocchi. And we love Bocchi. She's part of the band. She's great. So it's like, now we're all here. Fate has decided to have us all meet up, and let's do it. We're all a band now. So that's great. Let's see. One thing I did know is, they're trying to, they're a band, they're a very new band, but, I feel like it's like all bands or musicians or creators, whatever in general, that kind of jump the gun and, they start thinking about stuff that they want to do in the future, but right now it's really not feasible. But, you just let your imaginations and your aspirations run wild. And part of that is them, like, talking about the stuff they're going to do. They're talking about merch. And I made a note here that them having zip ties as merch is genius. Because one, the whole Kesuku thing is, it means zip tie. That's a funny little thing. But so obviously zip ties match the band name, but zip ties are so cheap, but like they'd be so recognizable too. Because like normal people don't wear zip ties on their wrists for no reason. Like that's not really like a fashion thing that I see people do. So the fact that you can like own zip ties, like you can be like that. This is our thing. So when you see people wearing a zip tie on their wrist, like, oh, they're a fan of this band. And then even at like a concert, like when they do get a bunch of people, just seeing the zip tie on the wrist, it's like you can get it different colors, like it's one size fit all. Like it's such a genius idea to have zip ties. Now Rio wanting to make them like $1,000 or whatever it was, I don't know, is kind of crazy. But that's a very Rio thing to do. But zip tie, like when they were talking about that, I was just looking and I was like, that's genius. That is such a smart idea. Yeah. And Bocchi is tasked in writing the song, which is very tough for her. I do really like this whole little arc here for her character where she is good at writing songs, but she's conflicted because she's like, yeah, but all the songs are kind of from my perspective, and I just write really like sad, depressing stuff, you know? And it's like, I don't like, is that what's gonna make the band popular? Like, is that how everyone else feels? Like, you know, especially Kita, who's a complete opposite, where she's super outgoing and super bubbly and super, you know, sunshine and everything. Like, I gotta try to write from her perspective, and you know, so it's very tough for her. But it's nice because she's thinking about these things. You know, she's trying to grow and she's trying to, you know, do what's best for the band. You know, um, and let's see. Rio mentioned that she's the quintessential musician is again just another little throwaway thing that I just love because Rio. Do I write this in there? I don't, so I'll mention it now. Rio, there are two reasons. These aren't the only reason, but there are two reasons I can think of top of my head why I love Rio. One is because she is the musician. She is a quintessential musician in the band, so she's really good at what she does and she owns it. And then two, she just lies like all the time. Like it's not quite gaslighting, but it's close. It's close to gaslighting where she just says stuff. And like the way she says it, if you don't know her, you just like, oh, okay, I guess what she says is true. I don't know. Like it's really only Nijika who's just like, don't listen to her. don't listen to what she's saying. She has no idea what she's talking about. But it's just funny where she's like she just says stuff and like again her tone, like in her expressiveness or her lack thereof, just makes everything she says seem like it's grounded and it's not. She just lies. But yeah, it's great. And then yeah, and then you know their whole thing, you know, it's kind of what Rio talks about is that, you know, again, I love the whole Rio and BOCCHI scene because it is this relationship that I didn't know I needed, but I need now because of how they mesh so well together. I loved it, right? You know, and then even Kita is like, where did this relationship come from? where, wh- when did this happen? Um, but you know, the whole Rio thing where you know she reads her lyrics, you know, she reads BOCCHI's lyrics and she's like, how do you feel about these lyrics? You know, that's the first thing she says. And BOCCHI's like, well, you know, I think that, this is what'll get like mass appeal. You know, these are the, this will take the band to the next level or succeed or whatever, right? She kind of has that sort of answer. And then Rio tells her whole story about why she quit her last band. And it basically boils down to, not really like they were trying to sell out, but they were trying to, they were sacrificing their, them being genuine, their authenticity for trying to make it. And she couldn't handle it. She was like, no, that's it's not us. If we're going to be in a band, we're going to do what we want to do. We're not going to do stuff. We're not going to try to fit the mold to try to be successful. That's stupid. So she quit. And so that was kind of her being like, write what you want to write. It might not be for everyone, but it's going to be true to you. And that's really all that matters, and that was incredible. And she did, she wrote, she stayed up like all night doing it. And they were like, these lyrics are incredible. This is awesome, and then later on, Rio writes the music to it, and she was like, yeah, I read BOCCHI's lyrics and it just kind of came out of me. It's just like, yes, like this is exactly what was supposed to happen. This is the best case scenario for all of them. Again, being true to yourself, doing what you want to do. And hey, listen, is it too depressing? Is it too, and they're even like, yeah, kinda. It is kind of, but it's so you. Like we are going to do this. Which is the best, What else do we have? Then we have, we're kind of reaching the end now where Nijika's sister won't let them play at the club again. She's like, I'm not just going to let you do it. And it's like, I let you do it before so that you guys could have a moment. You could have a nice little moment, but like, you guys aren't good, basically. And I understand that. I understand her thought process where it's like, this is the club that I own. Or she's the manager. I don't think she owns it, but manager, whatever. It's like, I can't just let people in that aren't good, that are going to ruin the reputation of our music selection. Like, I want people to come here knowing that no matter who's playing, it's going to be dope. And if you guys aren't dope, well, I can't just let you in here because we're family. Like, that's not. You guys have to get good. And so that makes Nijika very sad. She runs away. But it's a thing where, the sister's like, you guys can audition, and if you're good, you're good. You have to audition just like everyone else. So it's a little bit of hope there. And it's great because they work very, very hard. They're working day and night, going crazy. And they pass, right? We see the little song that they have, and it's great. It's incredible. There are still things to nitpick. And again, she says rough around the edges, but it's good, and then even her, like the other employee there, I don't know who that other lady is. We haven't really been introduced to her, like formally, I don't think, but she's even like, you liked them all along, didn't you? You were going to let them play. You've been holding a spot in the schedule for months, for weeks, or it's been that long, but whatever, like, you've been holding a spot. And then the big sister's like, well, no, I mean, yeah, I did like them, but I wasn't gonna let them play. Like, I want them to work for it. I need to be harder on them because I need them to succeed. I can't coddle them. To be like, oh no, you're great, you're awesome, you're perfect. Like, no, like, I want them to put in the work, and they did. They really did. And they passed. So we're gonna see their first real performance soon. I can't wait for that. It kind of ends off here with them being like, all right, they have to meet their quota, right? Because that was how this all started, right? Where they have to work because they need money so they can meet their quota. And they each, to meet their quota, each of them, there's 4 people, each of them has to sell 5 tickets to meet their quota. And Bocchi's losing it because Bocchi doesn't have any friends. So she starts thinking about family members, and it's like, okay, I got my mom, I got my dad, I got my sibling. That's only 3. She's like, oh, and I think they have like a dog or something. And she's like, oh, the dog, does a dog count? Even if the dog counts, it's only 4. So she's going nuts. So I'm sure we'll see next episode. I'd hope that she kind of comes clean about it, and she's like, hey, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Can anyone else pick up the slack? But we'll see. Again, I mean, maybe they can put it around the school. Maybe, like, there are ways. I mean, even Kita. I mean, Kita is pretty popular, right? She's pretty outgoing. Maybe she can. So there are. But I do like that kind of ending where it's like we're coming off the high of them passing, and then we had the low of Bocchi's not gonna be able to sell her tickets. So. But yeah, that's the show. That is all 5 episodes there. I love the show. Like I said, it's incredible. I think critically, it's like the highest scoring anime on my anime list in the music genre, which is like which is crazy because there are some really, really good music anime. Again, I don't know if it'll stay there, but we're already on I think episode 10 or 11 is out, so we're pretty close to the end. But yeah, that's the show. So next time for that one, again, this is what I'm catching up on. So I will probably just catch up in the show, whatever episode that is. So probably episode 10 or 11. So make sure to watch up until then, and we'll be caught up with this show the same way we're caught up with all the other shows. And yeah, I've said this before the past episode or 2, but make sure to really start, if you haven't yet, start looking at next season. Because we're coming up on, it's already like the middle of December or so. Like once January hits, that's when all the next season shows are going to start airing. So please, I should move on to this. I forgot to switch the slide. So please, take a look at next season and see what y'all are excited for. Let me know what y'all are excited for, what y'all are going to be definitely checking out. I know there's a bunch of sequels that I'm going to be checking out, most of them. I know there's a couple shows there that I haven't really watched, but yeah, so please let me know first, obviously, let me know what you thought of these episodes, all that stuff. Let me know what other shows in the future that are coming up next season that y'all really want to see, that are really excited for. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, good week. Can't wait for next week. And until next time, watch more anime.